Top 10 horror movies of all time. A horror film is one that intentionally attempts to induce fear or disgust in its audience for the sake of entertainment. Horror films also seek to elicit nightmares, revulsions, and fear of the unknown or macabre in spectators. Horror can also be found in the realms of fantasy, supernatural literature, and suspense. The invasion of an evil power, event, or personage into the everyday world is a common theme in horror plots. Before we move to the video, please subscribe my YouTube channel for more videos. Number 10. The Love Witch. Anna Biller wrote, edited, directed, produced, and scored The Love Witch, a 2016 American horror film. Samantha Robinson plays Elaine Parks, a modern-day witch who utilizes spells and sorcery to get men to love her, with disastrous repercussions. It premiered at the International Film Festival Rotterdam after being shot in Los Angeles and Arcata, California. After the loss of her husband Jerry, Elaine, a beautiful young witch, is going to Arcata, California, to begin a new life. Elaine is strongly implied to have murdered him. Trish invites Elaine to a tea house in an attempt to befriend her, where she is welcomed by her husband Richard, who is instantly smitten with Elaine after meeting her look. Elaine conducts a ritual in the hopes of finding a new partner, and she soon meets Wayne, a literature professor at the local college.
You want to take a girl up there now?
They proceed to Wayne's cabin, where she convinces him to swallow a hallucinogen-laced concoction. Elaine buries his body, along with a witch bottle with her urine and a discarded tampon, the next day. Number 9. It Follows. It Follows is a 2014 American supernatural psychological horror film directed by David Robert Mitchell and starring Micah Monroe as Jamie J. Height, a 19-year-old college student who is pursued by a supernatural entity after a sexual encounter, as well as Keir Gilchrist, Daniel Zovato, Jake Weary, Olivia Lucardi, and Lily Seep. With no sound, the story begins with a broad picture of a street. Then there's Annie, a girl who drowns in the ocean. The focus of the story turns to Jamie J. Height Monroe, an Oakland University student who is swimming in her home pool. Jamie goes on a date with her new boyfriend, Hugh, after that, Weary. If it catches Jamie, it will murder her and go after the one who passed it on before her, Hugh. Hugh drives Jamie home and runs as they spot a naked woman approaching them.
I need to find him.
What did he really do to you?
Apparently he used a fake name to rent a house in the city.
This isn't real, I swear to you, this is just some game.
If it kills her, it gets me.
Number 8. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Anna Lily Amirpour wrote and directed A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, a 2014 American Persian-language horror western film. It stars Sheila Vand, Arash Marandi, Mozan Marn, Marshall Manish, and Dominic Raines and is billed as the first Iranian vampire western. Hossein, a heroin addict, lives with and is cared for by Arash, a young, diligent Iranian guy. A vicious drug-dealing pimp named Saeed harasses them, seizing the young man's treasured car in exchange for money the father owes him. Arash steals a set of diamond earrings from the wealthy young woman he works for, Shada, in a chance crime. She persuades Saeed to return to his apartment with her. She gets long fangs and bites off his finger before going for his neck and murdering him. She passes by Arash on her way out, who has come to trade the earrings for his car. Arash decides to sell the narcotics, allowing him to leave Shada's employ. Number 7. A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place is a horror film directed by John Krasinski and written by Brian Woods, Scott Beck, and Krasinski, based on a story by Woods and Beck. In a post-apocalyptic world inhabited by blind monsters with acute hearing, a father, Krasinski, and a mother, Emily Blunt, strive to survive and raise their children, Millicent Simmons and Noah Jupe. The majority of Earth's human population has been wiped off by extraterrestrials with hypersensitive hearing who attack anything that makes sound. In a deserted town, the Abbott family, Evelyn, Lee, deaf teenage daughter Regan, and younger sons Marcus and Beau, stealthily hunt for supplies. They converse in American Sign Language while walking barefoot outside. Beau, 4, is drawn to a battery-powered space shuttle toy inside a store, but Lee pulls it away because of the noise it would make. Without batteries, Regan returns the item to Beau. Number 6. Tigers Are Not Afraid. Issa Lopez wrote and directed Tigers Are Not Afraid, a 2017 Mexican crime fantasy horror film with elements of magical realism. Marco Polo Constans, under the banner of Filmadora Nacional, and Peligrosa are producing the film. Estrella is a little girl living in a Mexican city that has been destroyed by the drug war. Estrella's classroom is disrupted by shooting outside the school while she is working on a fairy tale writing assignment. Classes have been suspended indefinitely as a result of the event. Shine. A street orphan, robs Caco, a henchman of crime leader Chino, who is actually politician Servando Esparza, of a revolver and an iPhone. Estrella realizes that her mother is missing after following a trail of blood from the body to her residence, where she discovers that she is a possible victim of rampant drug cartel-related violence from Chino's human trafficking organization, the Huascas. Number 5. The Loved Ones. Sean Byrne wrote and directed The Loved Ones, a 2009 Australian horror film starring Xavier Samuel, Robin McLeavy, Victoria Thane, Jessica McNamee, Richard Wilson, and John Brumpton. It follows a kid, Samuel, who finds himself at the heart of a deranged party thrown by a female classmate, McLeavy, after he declines her invitation to a school dance. Brent, a senior in high school, is traveling with his father Dan when they come across a bloodied man in the middle of the road. Lola observes the two having sex in Holly's car in private. Brent has turned to recreational cannabis use and self-mutilation with a razor blade hidden in his necklace because he feels guilty about his father's death. Brent's mother insists on taking a taxi rather than riding with Holly, who is inexperienced. Brent travels to a neighboring cliff after leaving his house. He considers suicide for a brief moment. Number 4. The Babadook. Jennifer Kent's directorial debut, The Babadook, is a 2014 Australian psychological horror film written and directed by Jennifer Kent, with Christina Satan and Christian Moliere producing. On January 17, 2014, the film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, garnering attention and critical acclaim in the United States and Europe, generating $10.3 million against a budget of $2 million. Amelia Vacan is a sad and fatigued widow in Adelaide, Australia, who has raised her 6-year-old son Samuel on her alone. Oscar, her late husband, was killed in a vehicle accident while driving Amelia to the hospital during her labor. Sam begins to act erratically. He becomes insomniac and is fascinated with a fictitious monster against which he has constructed weapons. After Sam delivers one of the weapons to the school, Amelia is obliged to pick up her son. Sam requests that his mother read him Mr. Babadook, a pop-up fairy tale. Number 3. Get Out. Jordan Peele's directorial debut, Get Out, is a 2017 American horror film written and directed by him. Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Stephen Root, and Catherine Keener are among the cast members. Get Out features Chris Washington, Kaluuya, a young black guy who meets the family of his white lover, Rose Armitage, and discovers disturbing secrets.
It's your flash. That's what set him off. Hey.
Well,
How's he doing?
he's much better.
Chris Washington, a black photojournalist, is hesitant to meet the family of his white girlfriend, Rose Armitage. Later, Rose's brother Jeremy and their parents, neurosurgeon Dean and hypnotherapist Missy, make disturbing remarks about black people at the Armitage residence in upstate New York. Missy coerces Chris into a hypnotherapy session to help him quit smoking when he can't sleep. He dips into a nothingness Missy refers to as the sunken place, while in a trance, expressing guilt about his mother's death in a hit and run when he was a child. Number 2. The Wailing. Kwok Do Won, Wong Young Minimum, and Chun Woo Hee star in The Wailing, a 2016 South Korean horror film directed by Na Hong-jin and starring Kwak Do-won, Wang Young-minimum, and Chun Woo-hee. In order to save his daughter, a police officer investigates a series of inexplicable homicides and illnesses in the secluded Korean village of Goksan. The picture was a critical and commercial triumph. A mystery sickness breaks out after a Japanese man comes in Goksan, a small town in the South Korean highlands, causing the people to turn insane and savagely murder their families. They subsequently learn that the afflicted woman has slain her family. The woman vanishes as Jong-gu steps outside to contact Oh Seong-bok. Number 1. Under the Shadow. Babak Anvari, an Iranian-born filmmaker, made his directorial debut with Under the Shadow, a 2016 Persian-language psychological horror thriller. In 1980s Tehran, during the War of the Cities, a mother and daughter are haunted by a terrible evil. Former medical student Shida is prevented from resuming her education in war-torn post-revolutionary Tehran in the 1980s because of her connection with student Marxist parties. She throws out her medical textbooks but preserves a book on medical physiology that her mother gave her before she died. Despite the protests of her husband Iraj, a doctor drafted into military service, she chooses to stay in the city with her daughter Dorsa as the war intensifies. Shida opposes Iraj's request to stay with his parents in a safer region of the nation. Dorsa's favorite doll, Kimia, is promised to guard her by Iraj.